Hello, welcome to my reflection. I recently picked up two little books by the comedian Milton Jones. This one's called 10-Second Sermons and the other one's called Even More Concise 10-Second Sermons. And they're full of just little one-sentence anecdotes. And I've been flicking through, and there are quite a few that have really tickled me, and some that have left me with room to think, or needing to think about a few things, and really nodding my head and saying, you're onto something there. And one of those was this. He talks about Christians. He is a Christian himself. But he says this: if being a Christian is only about not doing certain things, then that's a bit like a celebrity chef who is more famous for his allergies and intolerances. If being a Christian is only about not doing certain things, that's a bit like a celebrity chef who is more famous for his allergies and intolerances. It is one of the great sadnesses of, well, the way the Christian church has acted, and also partly the way it's been perceived by people in the world, that being a Christian or being the church means fundamentally having a long list of things that we can't do and shouldn't do, things that we are essentially against, things that we stand against, things we have opinions about that we are against. Sometimes you'll even find people who, in their praying, will pray against things, which is really odd, isn't it? When you think about it. Because we pray to God, or what we conceive of as God. So praying against something doesn't really make sense. And then we turn to the book of James, one of the letters in the New Testament, which Martin Luther hated because he felt it was going in the wrong direction and all about behaving yourself in a certain way so that you, in a sense, earn your place in God's life and in heaven. But in the letter of James, we find these words: what good is it, my brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith but do not have works? Can faith save you? If a brother or sister is naked and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and eat your fill, and yet you do not supply their bodily needs, what is the good of that? So faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead. So putting aside some of the church's tragic history of standing against things rather than for things, or shouting very loudly about the things we're against and just assuming that the things we're for are then obvious, I suppose I want to ask you what you've learnt during the last 8 months about what you are for. What you are for. What do you stand for? What do you hope for? What do you pray for? What do you long for? For yourself, for the people you love, for the world? What are the things that have emerged in the way we go about using our time, the way we go about just walking a little more gently on the earth, perhaps, the way we go about being ourselves, doing our politics, even being church, that we want to be for very powerfully in the way that the world unfolds as coronavirus runs out of steam or somehow is contained into a small corner of the world's life that we are able to manage. See, it's very easy to be against things. And I find myself reading on Facebook and in other places, lengthy opinion after lengthy opinion of people who are against all kinds of things, who are outraged and upset about all kinds of things. And then I look and I see over time some of the patterns of some of those people's postings, and I don't mean to be unkind, but their postings are very seldom positively about things that they are for. Not celebrations of the things that are good in the world. They are far more a kind of ranting stand against all the things that rile them and make them angry. Now, of course, there's a time for that. There is. There is. It's good that Black Lives Matter is a positive statement. It's not end racism. It's Black Lives Matter. It's saying something affirming about black people. It's saying what we are for, more than saying what we are against. We don't really need to say what we're against in that slogan. It speaks for itself, and the stories that have made it necessary speak for themselves. I hope that when we come out of coronavirus, I hope that already. We don't need to wait. I hope that for you and for me, one of the things we're learning is to be much more for things than against things. Which doesn't mean just going along with things we don't like. It doesn't mean just agreeing to things that rile us or just keeping quiet. No, it means perhaps instead of turning our anger and our energy, even just quietly to ourselves, grumbling away, instead of turning that in the direction of being annoyed with something, perhaps we could ask ourselves what we might be able to do that would be part of the solution, part of the answer, however tiny, part of the healing, the restoring, the making ridiculous some of the things that we are really against, that we really don't like. I think that in the book of James, the author is onto something, because faith is very quickly reduced into a kind of intellectual transaction between me and God, between me and the church that I'm part of, with whom I agree about certain things, and as long as I'm in line with the creeds and the doctrines, and and I agree about things like baptism and the roles of women, and the way we read the Bible and what we expect of it, and where people who are minorities, especially those who are LGBT, those who are not sort of straight heterosexual, as long as we're clear about where those things are, whichever direction those things go in, as long as we're all on the same page, then we are Christian, then we are people of faith. When in fact it doesn't really cost us anything to agree or disagree with things that are part of our group, and then disagree with things that are part of another group's life or the world's life. Much harder to say, how can I positively express the thing that I'm for? How can I positively influence, enhance, take part in, show generosity towards, invest myself in the good that I believe can be in the world, the justice, we may not even agree on what those things might be or how they're best brought about, but how can we invest in the positive application of ourselves to the things that we care about, and do perhaps a little less moaning about the things that are not as we wish they were. So I'll leave you with that thought for today. You may agree or disagree, but I do think that sometimes our lens is very sharply focused on what we don't like. And perhaps it could be focused far more on the possibility of what we and others might bring about together as part of addressing what we don't like, without staring at it, but just cracking on with doing something about it. So bless you. Have a good day.